The hotel folded into itself. The room where he had been standing disappeared beneath tons of concrete. Hours later, Kamar Galíndez emerged alive. So did the small medal he believed had been protecting him all along. The miracle wasn't surviving the earthquake, it was what survived it with him. The building came down in seconds. He walked out of it, convinced something greater than luck brought him through. Kamar Galíndez was on the top floor of a beachfront hotel in La Guaira, Venezuela, about to start his evening workout, when the ground gave way beneath him on June 24th. Two earthquakes struck within moments of each other, and the section of the hotel he stood in folded straight down.
The floor split, and immediately I saw half the building tilting forward while the section I was in collapsed straight down. I felt my feet were no longer standing on anything, and the next thing I knew, I was trapped in the rubble.
Pinned beneath a beam, his arm broken, unable to breathe properly, he did not lose consciousness once. Galíndez said the fear was constant, but somewhere underneath it, he kept praying for calm and for a way out. A stranger eventually climbed the wreckage and pulled him free. Galíndez made his own way down what was left of the building, only realizing the scale of the disaster once he stood outside it. It was what he found afterwards that stayed with him. Around his neck, he had always worn a small chain carrying a crucifix and a medal of the Miraculous Virgin. The chain had snapped in the collapse, lost somewhere in the chaos, or so he assumed.
I was wearing shorts with a small zippered pocket, and when I looked, don't ask me where from, don't ask me how, a piece of the chain and the Miraculous Medal were caught inside.
To Galíndez, that was no accident. He asked the young men helping him with first aid to keep the medal safe alongside his watch, certain it was what had saved him. Not everyone in that hotel made it out. The twin earthquakes have since claimed 3,535 lives across Venezuela, with 16,740 more injured and tens of thousands still believed missing according to independent estimates. Against that toll, Galíndez says he has stopped taking anything for granted, least of all the fact that he is still breathing.
There is a God who looks after you in that moment, attending to what you are asking of him and what you need. From freeing up an arm to reminding you of his presence by leaving a small medal hanging from your shorts.
For a man who walked away from a building that swallowed so many others, gratitude, he says, is the only response that makes sense. Amid the devastation left behind by Venezuela's catastrophic twin earthquakes, one building has become an unlikely symbol of survival. While entire apartment blocks crumbled across the coastal state of La Guaira, a modest three-story residential building remained standing, even as much taller and more modern buildings around it collapsed within seconds. According to AFP, the building was constructed around 2 decades ago by engineer Elias Chayeb, who says its survival was no accident. His son, Elias Eduardo Chayeb, returned to inspect the property after the disaster and described an emotional moment.
As I said, it's a mixed feeling of peace and giving thanks to God because we saw people alive. Imagine how much we saw along the way and how the whole of La Guaira looks. I had just come from seeing all that, and when we saw this building still standing, we gave thanks to God. Also, as far as we can tell, we didn't lose any lives in our buildings. That makes you feel good about yourself.
The Chayeb family says the building's low-rise design, reinforced structural system, and foundations adapted to La Guaira's unstable terrain allowed it to withstand the 7.2 and 7.5 magnitude earthquakes that struck within 38 seconds of each other on June 24th. Explaining the engineering behind the design, Chayeb said the structure was deliberately built to absorb seismic energy and fail gradually rather than collapse suddenly.
It's designed to break here first and then here, giving people a chance to escape the building. We designed it to collapse so people could get out. It has to break apart gradually, and we'll see this in many buildings. We'll see certain structural features designed so people can escape.
Residents inside the building described terrifying moments as the ground shook.
I was screaming for my neighbors, Jonathan, Jonathan, help me. I felt like everything was going to collapse on top of me.
Apartment owner Ingrid Palacios also credited the engineers' careful planning for saving lives.
And he felt proud when he came and saw his building, referring to the engineer, that it was still standing, that it withstood the earthquake, because this building withstood the earthquake. And if you look around, the others didn't hold up. But this building did because he built it, and he built it with love, with care, with God, who told him that this would be the best building in the world. And it was.
According to the US Geological Survey, the earthquake struck along the San Sebastian fault system, which runs parallel to Venezuela's northern coastline. The agency warned that the powerful shaking has increased the risk of landslides for months or even years across the affected region. The contrast between the surviving building and the widespread destruction has renewed scrutiny over construction standards in one of Venezuela's most seismically active regions. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis continues to deepen. In the hills above Catia La Mar, local volunteers have taken on the grim task of burying hundreds of earthquake victims at La Esperanza Cemetery, often performing duties normally carried out by state emergency agencies. Community leader Ellis Zabala said 314 victims have already been buried at the cemetery, with each grave carefully marked to ensure families can later identify their loved ones.
They are being buried with dignity. They are all on a terrace separated by plots. Why? To give a dignified burial to all those bodies that were victims of the tragedy that occurred here and across the country.
Community Council member Nicholas Rivas explained that many victims remain unidentified and have been buried according to morgue records.
They are buried in the designated area so that when the city begins pouring concrete, each mourner can come and identify their loved ones.
Zabala said volunteers have surrounded each grave with white stones, allowing relatives to return and mourn with dignity.
The graves are surrounded by white stones to set them apart from the other graves, so that family members can come and hold a mass or pay their respects. These terraces A, B, C, D, F, and G have been in use for just a week. We can see that they are well organized and the deceased are being given the dignified burial they all deserve.
Around 100 victims buried at the cemetery are still identified only by numbers linked to morgue records. The latest official figures show the disaster has claimed 3,685 lives, injured nearly 17,000 people, left over 17,000 homeless, and damaged more than 850 buildings, including 190 structures that completely collapsed. Opposition-backed estimates suggest more than 30,000 people remain unaccounted for, underscoring the scale of one of Venezuela's deadliest natural disasters in modern history. "12 days after twin earthquakes devastated Venezuela's northern coast, rescue workers are still digging through mountains of concrete and twisted steel, refusing to abandon hope that survivors may still be found beneath the rubble. The two powerful earthquakes, measuring 7.2 and 7.5, struck within 38 seconds of each other on June 24th, flattening neighborhoods across La Guaira, Caracas, and surrounding regions. According to Venezuelan authorities, the disaster has now claimed 3,535 lives, injured 16,740 people, and left 17,854 residents homeless. But amid the devastation, an extraordinary civilian rescue effort has emerged. As reported by The Guardian, volunteers known as topos or moles have become symbols of hope, crawling into impossibly narrow gaps inside collapsed buildings in search of survivors. Among the volunteers risking their lives in Venezuela's earthquake-ravaged coastal region is 32-year-old Darwin Rodriguez, a motorcycle mechanic known by the nickname Culebrita, or Little Snake, for his ability to crawl through narrow gaps in collapsed buildings.
I'm not afraid, but you need to be brave to do this.
The term topo was coined 40 years ago in Mexico after an 8.1 magnitude earthquake devastated that country's capital in 1985, killing more than 20,000 people. The disaster spawned a now famous civilian search and rescue team, popularly known as the Mexican Moles. Now, after last week's calamity, Venezuela has its own company of moles who day and night are digging and delving in the hope of saving lives, or at least offering closure to the relatives of those missing. Meanwhile, another volunteer, Darwin Martinez, who rescued dozens of people during the first hours when there was no official help, said,
On the first and second days, we managed to rescue more than 20 people. We had help from the local community because at first there was almost no outside assistance. It was difficult, but nothing was impossible.
Rodriguez, who has lost about 10 members of his family during the earthquakes, and continues smiling. In an interview shared on social media, Rodriguez said he has barely rested since arriving at the disaster zone, choosing to remain on the front lines despite the physical and emotional toll.
Since the first day, after the concern, the anguish, the despair, I did have trying to continue because I have my family here. I haven't got it. Until today, I haven't got it, but it didn't stop me, and here I am still. After the accident, together with my team from the Ministry of Public Works, we were here working, and we are still here fighting to save lives, to get people out. And, well, here we are still resting a little and working hard.
The volunteer rescuers are searching inside the collapsed Residencia Costa Brava, a 14-story apartment building reduced to rubble during the earthquakes, hoping someone may still be alive beneath the debris. At the same time, families are continuing their own desperate search for missing loved ones. Among them is Elizabeth Leon, who has spent nearly 2 weeks waiting outside the collapsed OPA 26 housing complex in Carabaleda, where several members of her family remain trapped. Despite the passing days, she refuses to give up hope.
After 12 days, I'm here waiting to bring them out alive, if that is God's will, or their bodies. Their location has already been pinpointed. In the name of God, today we're going to bring them out, trusting in God that we'll find them alive, that they'll be alive, because the rooms don't smell bad. With faith, trusting in God, that everything will turn out well.
Leon explained that rescuers believe her relatives are trapped on the building's 4th floor, forcing volunteers and family members to manually cut through multiple layers of collapsed concrete. When asked by a journalist how rescuers reached that level, Leon described the enormous effort required.
So you've broken through 6 slabs?
We've broken through 6 slabs on 4 separate occasions, with our bare hands. We've done it with the help of friends, family, acquaintances, people who've joined us, and a few police officers who've lent us a hand.
For Leon, the search is no longer only about rescue, but also about finding closure.